Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
The 10 tips to developing your personal brand through thought leadership. Now, I know you're a consultant and a coach or a small business owner that is looking to grow their brand and to actually make more money with less struggle. And I know and understand that within your industry, becoming an expert is one of those converted things, and is one of those things that you need to be in order for people to buy from you, because people buy from the best in the industry. Now, have you ever noticed that there are restaurants that people actually line up for? And there's products that people pre-order in months in advance. I bet the iPhone or the Android that you're listening to this podcast on, you would have pre-ordered it, or you would have gone in and maybe waited in line for it. If you didn't, at least you were checking out the reviews well in advance before you went out and bought this product. There are festivals that have tickets that sell out, just on the day that they're released, or events, like marathons, where people hang out outside, the website for a 30-minute window for them to just purchase those tickets. Have you ever asked yourself why that is? Have you ever asked yourself why a lot of people seem to be closing deals and going on holidays and living la vida loca, and you just seem to be having a tough time just getting people to like your tweets? Well, becoming an expert doesn't happen overnight, and it's something that you got to work towards. And in this podcast, I'm going to try and give to you the 10 tips that you need to develop your own personal brand, and how thought leadership will actually put you amongst the top in your industry. Now, what criteria are necessary to be deemed a thought leader in your industry? Have you ever thought of that? The people that are celebrated in your industry, what are they doing? How do they show up? What do their websites look like? What do their landing pages look like? What do their lead magnets give, so that they get all this notoriety and celebrity status that they get? Because the answers might vary, maybe being a consultant or a coach or something of that nature. Most people can actually agree that it does, however, take a complex series of experiences, that we all have to go through so that we can do, and have the success that we are looking for. All right. So it's your life story, your experiences, and your expertise that then people come to the table for. Because half of the time you will notice that all the content that's out there is plus or minus the same. Okay. But what are the setbacks? What are the things that will make you rethink or redesign or restart, whatever it is that you already have? Because your thought process has to be reconditioned in order for you to start growing your business so that it is profitable and enjoyable. And I know the biggest problem that you have as an entrepreneur, marketing is just one aspect of running a successful business. You got to hire new staff, manage them, balance the books, grow, and all those things that come along with running a business. And it feels like a consistent, balancing act where you are pulled in multiple directions all at once. But once you master your craft, your successes will eventually start speaking for themselves. Now, this process is how a lot of thought leaders are born. And it's not a linear process where you start today, or like what they show us in Hollywood, where somebody is born and then they go to kindergarten, and then they go to high school. From high school, they get their first love. From getting their first love, they get engaged, and then they go to university. And once they engaged the university, they get married, and then they get a job, and then they get a promotion, and then pretty much after that they have 2.5 kids, and then they get a disease, and then they die, all in a 45-minute episode plus commercials. It doesn't work like that. So the process of how thought leaders are born is exactly what I will outline in the 10 tips that I'm going to give you below. But thought leaders cannot rely solely on just word of mouth of their business. You literally have to become top notch in your industry. You have to be remarkable, and people should know, like, and trust you as an experienced person in your industry. And at the end of the day, your real goal is to help your clients. You want to spend as much time as possible changing lives and solving people's problems. You don't want to waste countless hours each week trying to navigate the complex world of maybe online marketing or gaming, the social media algorithms. And suddenly you don't want to spend another minute on the phone having to beg people to come to your services. If you become a thought leader within your industry, you don't have to do all of these things, okay? You see, I don't even need to do these things. All I have to do is sit down for 30 minutes each and every day, do a podcast like this, and I have partnerships, people calling me and saying, hey, I heard your stuff that you spoke about on the podcast. Can we implement that in my business? I still have a long list of clients who want to work with me. It's not because I'm a genius. It's not because I'm a master of persuasion either. It's because I follow a simple system that works. And that simple system is what I'm going to lay out to you in the 10 steps below. The first thing that you got to do is define and refine your area of expertise. What do you want to be known for? So this step might just seem a little obvious, but most people have a wide range of interests and vast knowledge. Have you ever seen a lot of consultants on LinkedIn have an alphabet soup, of credentials, CIA, CPA, C this, that, or M.E.D.I.A, all of those things. It is good and well to your colleagues and to people that understand what that is, but your customers are looking for some transformation. What is it that you are going through right now that you can absolutely help your clients with, that they're struggling with, and you have a solution for? What is it that your clients are going through? What pain points do they have? Because being a thought leader requires a narrowed focus in a specific area. You'll be best served to whittle down all your options in a specific area of expertise. If you're going to be a heart surgeon, you don't want people to come to you for a broken toe, because that's not your area of expertise. So there's some contention regarding whether or not your subject area needs to be distinctive or maybe over addressed. Now, here's one way to look at this issue. Even a popular industry has room for an authentic expert who brings knowledge to the table. And if you're needed and you're an innovator in your field, people will gravitate to you and they will listen to whatever it is that you've got to say. All right? You no longer are a wandering generality. You are now a meaningful specific. And if somebody has problems or if somebody needs a specific solution, they are not going to take their accounting books to an HR consultant. So you want to, state your claim and really show people how you can help them by actually helping them and being specific. Because people are bombarded with options out there. And the last thing you want to be doing is confusing them when they show up to your website. Just pick one lane. And then when they do show up and they signed up to be your customer or something like that, then you would then turn around and say, hey, now that you're here, would you like fries with that? Lead in with something simple that is easy for people to understand and grasp what it is that you do, so that when they speak to their friends and relatives at a barbecue, at least they have one reference point instead of, he kind of does everything, but I don't quite know what he does. And that is bad for business. And once you're doing that, you want to be building your background and continuing your education. The best way to actually make sure you're continuing your education is to share what you have learned. The reason why a lot of people are not growing besides just what their education stipulates is because they're not sharing enough of the content. Because if you're showing up for a podcast like this every single day, you ask yourself, wait a minute, who am I to be documenting my journey, or who am I to be giving reference to things like this? So I back myself with books. And the more I continue my education, guess what happens? I feel very confident that if I'm not sure about something or a certain topic, we can always look it up. So you want to build your background and continuously educate yourself, because people are coming to the internet to get information. And if they're getting that information from you, guess what happens? They get to know you, like you, and trust you. And as we all know, people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. So now it's sort of time to look at your work. I mean, it's your job to become highly proficient in your industry, and you must invest time and money into your education by maybe going to seminars, listening to podcasts like this, or attending conferences or courses that enhance your education status. You must also read ferociously, like I'm saying, and you need to understand the stance of other leaders in your field. Because having a considerable wealth of perspectives in your own subject will actually help you develop your own unique approach from the expertise of others, because your life story and your experience have greater value than what your formal education brings. People are here to hear your stories. How did you go through certain problems? How do you encourage people's dreams because you've gone through that same thing that they're going through themselves? How do you justify people's failures because you've also failed? That's what your prospects are yearning to listen to and hear. And when you start having these different perspectives, you start having different conversations. And when you have different conversations, you become interesting. And when you become interesting, people become interested in you. Write that down. It's actually really good. When you become interesting, people become interested in you. All right? And once you've got that, you've got interesting perspectives to share, find the best platform to share your message. So you need to take stock, and figure out, wait a minute, am I good at video? Am I good at talking? Am I good at writing? Am I good at TikToks? What are you actually good at? And then capitalize on that. I've discovered I'm really good at talking, so I literally sit down and do a podcast every single day. So it goes on for about 30 minutes or so, and then that podcast turns into a blog. And then we transcribe the podcast, and then we turn it into a blog. And then once it's turned into a blog, we now take snippets of that blog into social media posts. So because I only just have to shoot one bird with 5 stones, is that the right way to say it? Shoot one bird with 5 stones, I literally have content that is just coming out of every other place, because my team then chops it up and takes snippets of this and actually utilizes it so that we can go into different avenues. So with so many ways to get your word out there, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, podcasting like we're doing, blogging, and so much more, it's essential to just pick what platform that will retain the most growth for you. And the trick is, you only need to be good at one, like I was saying with podcasting. And instead of trying to be average at all, just deep dive into one and select the best platform where your message and skills can be utterly amplified, and then use the other ones, to replicate your content and just to pass on the message and engage and educate your audience out there. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about podcasting, because for me, I realized podcasting a little bit late. I was just thinking to myself, maybe I'm not really good at this, but I kid you not, I just bought a microphone, and that's the only fancy equipment that I have. And I record this podcast on Audacity, which is a free tool that you can download from the internet. And then I just chop up. I got the beginning of the podcast and the outro done by one of my team members, and then they already make it sound good and pretty much that's about it. So I want you to maybe choose a platform, but maybe if you want to become a podcaster, because it's one way to promote your notoriety as a thought leader, because you own the media, you own the content. And podcasts have become very alluring to the general public. You know, the big draw of podcasts is the mobility aspect of it. Look at you right now. You're probably at the gym. You're probably walking your dog. If you're in the toilet, flush or wash your hands after you're done. But you can be anywhere and still be consuming content. All right, you can listen from your device anytime, from just about anywhere you are, and adding this type of accessibility to yourself and to your brand can actually become a game changer. Now, I'm doing this. I do the podcast, and when the podcast airs, I actually send an email to my audience. I'm not out there trying to search for people that have never heard of me to download the podcast. I'm actually creating an environment of content that will then, be or help my audience to actually solve the problems that they have. Remember what I said at the start of this podcast. At the end of the day, your real goal is to help your clients. Now, if I can help them make sense of the world around themselves while they're doing whatever they're doing, guess what? Everybody wins. You know? And if you can't do the whole podcasting thing, try and be an author or like a guest poster or something like that. Because the more articles you write in your area of expertise, the more SEO instances you get to have. You know, and the wider your audience becomes. Because if you now start continual content, showing that you are relevant and you're fresh and you've got new ideas that warrant, debate or whatever it is, your name gets out there. And you actually begin to establish your authority. You can't establish authority with TikToks because they only a 10-second view. Maybe they can if you're using them as a lead generator to drive them to your profiles or to your podcast, not just it being a means to an end. All right, and if you really want us to help you out with your content and to syndicate all of that content, you don't need to sacrifice your income to do what you love. You can actually have both. I can walk you through our simple step-by-step, plan, and then I can show you exactly how I'm managing to just sit down once and have this content redistributed to a lot more platforms, and you can still be able to connect with me on a daily basis at scale while I'm playing with my kids. All right. So if you really want to take it right now, go and look at my stories on Facebook. Okay, I'll go by the same name, Prosper Tarovinga. If you look at my stories on Facebook, while you're listening to this podcast, I'm probably playing with my kids or doing something fun in my office. All right, so your content then helps to leverage your message. Or if you publish a book, I've published ebooks. I've never actually published a book, but if you publish a book or an ebook on your topic, it's also a great way to widen your audience, and it builds status within the industry because people start referring to your book as that little non-committal sort of step that they're going to take before they commit to maybe your consulting services or something like that. And once you have content, let me tell you something, you build a social media audience that you can actually start performing to, because it's like theater. You can't perform to an empty stage or to an empty audience. When you're on stage, you need an audience, and you need to build it up by being relevant, by contributing, by actually engaging and educating your audience and providing value. Because we get paid in direct proportion to the value that we bring to the marketplace. So when you're building your personal brand, don't underestimate the power of social media. And being a devoted social media contributor is almost essential these days. Because if it hasn't happened on Facebook, it hasn't happened in the world. Do you know what I mean? That's how people are approaching the internet, or approaching their lives every single day. No one is buying the newspaper anymore. They're reaching out for their phones the first thing when they wake up in the morning. All right? And equally important is the frequency on how you post. So posting each and every day on your social media is also a great way to quickly establish your presence, because it gives people a reason to follow you. It gives people a reason to want to know more and hang, on the edge of their seats, wanting to know what you're going to post again tomorrow. And obviously, your presence eventually becomes known throughout the industry, and people start coming to you to get answers whenever something is happening in your industry. But also, I want to emphasize that you need to be producing high quality content that actually helps your audience. You want to be helping your audience by actually helping them. I bet this podcast is filled with stuff that if you were actually listening, I told you how I run my podcast. I told you what I do with the content and how we repurpose it and all that stuff. You could literally follow through step by step and go on and create your own content, and you can actually start becoming relevant and become a thought leader just from this episode alone. And of course, reaching great heights in your field, you're going to rely on the quality of your content. We're not saying publish every single day mediocre stuff. You need to make an effort to follow these and other tips, just so that your efforts are not in vain. Do you know what I mean? And then you need to be showcasing to people that, yes, you're worth their time, because time, money, and effort are now scarce resources. Everything is out there just trying to grab your prospects' time. So you want to be finding worthy content which actually addresses and you've done your due diligence, to put your education and your expertise around the topic. However, just be aware that your information always needs to be valuable and helpful for your audience, because if you're not helping people, why should they return, the favor with their attention? Because human beings operate from reciprocity, okay? Where if you scratch my back, I scratch yours too. So the more you put content out there, you're giving people ammunition for when somebody asks them how they can solve a problem, they put across your content, your post, or something that you would have put together to whoever wants to be helped with that, And one other thing that can actually help you is to work with other experts. You could interview people, you could collaborate with other experts in the field, and it will actually help you cross-pollinate audiences. I'll tell you something. When I was getting started, the one thing that actually put me on the map was I was interviewing people that had already made it in my industry, okay? So naturally, you start borrowing their authority, you start borrowing their audiences, and then, when you interview someone, people who already follow that person transfer that authority that they already have on the person you're interviewing. And if you're just starting out, guess what that does to you? It actually just puts you at the same level, because people like us do things like this. All right. So you want to be making sure that you are associating with those that have already made it, or people that have an audience, so that you can also borrow their authority and borrow their audience, because it sucks to start from the bottom. But there's another vital reason for you to actually surround yourself with like-minded people, because, hey, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of the time with. So you want to be also being around these, spheres of influence. I'm not talking about the influencers on Instagram that are walking around half naked. No. I'm talking about the well-known names in your industry that will help you expand your reach. And once you're there, try and be seen at least sharing your expertise in, public settings, like speaking. Maybe these days there's not going to be a lot of live events, but become a speaker. Yes, I know the pandemic might have shut down a lot of stages and people can't speak, but you can also do Zoom setups where you can speak to, and that also makes you leverage geography, because anyone can log in from anywhere in the world. I know the pandemic shutdown taught us that public speaking didn't necessarily have to be an event, in a center full of people. Whether it's online or in person, speaking to the masses and disseminating your wisdom is a tried and true way to propel your thought leader status. We are genetically wired to listen to people that have authority. So that's where you want to be, especially if you're a coach or consultant that really wants to make a mark, in your industry. And then once you're in that space and doing all of those things, be a mentor for those that are below you. Okay, when I was growing up, we in the bathrooms where we would go to, even in public spaces or in schools, there would be a sign that says, leave this place better than you found it. And I've taken that to heart. All right. So if you're not going to be helping others do and have a happier existence along the way, then you're doing the world a disservice. Try and find people that you can mentor, and if you're a little bit older, find people that can reverse mentor you as well. Because there's some younger people that can teach you a lot of things about technology and social media that you might not be aware of. And you can then teach them the intricacies of being in business, and the partnership will create amazing results. Because mentoring is a win-win agreement. People who have mentors tend to thrive, from the knowledge sharing relationship that they both have. The younger person is gaining, insights and a shorter learning curve, and you are also catching up to the technology that you might have missed out because you were not born with an iPhone in your hands like the kids of these days. All right. So, the mentors themselves also benefit from this connection, and you're gaining new perspectives and fresh ideas on how to tackle and do certain things. Because if you're failing to grow your business, Albert Einstein mentioned that the thinking that got us here is not the same thinking that is going to get us out of this problem. So part of building your thought leadership status should also include having either a mentor or a mentee, and then mentoring others in your space as well. You want others to say, hey, because of Prosper, because of Sally, because of Claudia, I did not give up. Wouldn't that be nice? So if you want to be known as an expert in your field, I know it's a worthwhile goal, but it's also a life-changing journey. The best thought leaders are devoted and they're passionate about their topic with an overall purpose to actually help others where they actually shine. Like, seriously, I viscerally believe that you are meant to live a happier existence. And I know that, you can actually grow your business and become one of the biggest players, in your industry. But remember, at the end of the day, your real goal is to help your clients. And my goal is to help you succeed so that you too can have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Okay? I want you to maybe book a free consultation with me, because I want to show you how to get high ticket leads on autopilot using our online prosperity method. And this method is just a simple system that I also developed by throwing away, what I thought I knew, as a marketer's rule book. And now I've scaled my business because the things that I've told you on growing your own personal brand and thought leadership are the things that I'm going to be telling you or teaching you in the online prosperity method. So the message or the email that came with this podcast, there's a link on there, livelongdigital.com.au/OPB. Just click that link and I'm going to show you how to use this system to skyrocket your growth in your service business. I really want you to get consulting and coaching and small business clients fast, even if no one has ever heard of you. Come on, let's get started.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au